Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so the knit two together at the neckline is on the left side of the steek, and the SSK is on the right side of the steek.
Yes, so she starts out with the armhole decreases, and you're gonna work across your steek stitches,
Right.
and then within 2 stitches of the armhole steek, knit two together, slip the marker, work your steek stitches, slip that other marker, and then SSK. And I think we talked about the new and improved SSK, where
Yes,
you
yes, I did that.
you slip as to knit the first one, slip as to purl the second one, and then knit them together through the back loop. Did you like the way it looks?
Right. I did. That's great.
And then when you come to this next armhole steek, you're going to knit two together, slip the marker, work your steek stitches again, and SSK. And then, so you're doing the same thing when you come to both armholes.
Right.
Um,
Right.
she says that on the vest, I use decreases that lean into the center front steek and away from the armhole steeks. There's Jill. So you're decreasing the neck, V-neck every other round. But yeah, that begins, I think if I read that correctly, and that's going to begin where she says at the same time. Oh, here we go. So you've done one set of decreases where it's on page 3, right above. It's that right in the middle of the page that starts next round in parentheses armhole decrease round. So you're doing one set of decreases there. Then you repeat the armhole decrease once more. And then you're going to see the 2 lines with the asterisks in it. And then that next paragraph begins repeat armhole decrease round every round 3 more times. So that's or 3 more times. So then you've done 1, 2, and then you're going to do 3 more and then begin your every other round. So, but at the same time,
Right.
so it would be on your third armhole decrease round that you're going to start your neckline decreases. Hi, Jill.
Right. Yep. It makes sense.
Okay. Now, um, we talked about, so you're going to have more neck shaping than you do armhole shaping. So once you get all of those armhole decreases completed, then you're going to just knit, no more decreases on the armhole side, but you're still going to continue your decreases on the neckline until you have those finished. We did calculate that you, no matter how long you make that your shoulder from the armhole up to the shoulder, you still have additional rows to complete after you complete your neckline shaping. So don't
Okay.
worry about running out of room to make those decreases. So how are you doing, Jill? So we can't
I'm
hear
good.
you. Oh, you're good. So where are you
Oh,
on your vest?
yes.
So how far
It's
along are you?
just knitting around and around.
Doing the shaping?
I got all the decrease. Yeah, I'm all done
Okay. So
with
are you
that.
ready to join your shoulder seams
So
yet?
going around, not yet.
Not yet?
No,
Okay. Um,
I'm sorry, my computer's not
that's
yet.
okay. I know that the pattern doesn't tell you how far to knit. I'm going to see if I can on this. So that shoulder
Mm,
is going to, you're going to knit until if you've taken the measurement on another sweater or another vest that you like, that where your armhole begins, if you go straight across from that and then measure up to where your shoulder is, it'll give you an idea of how tall to make that section of your vest. But of course you can't try it on because you're still knitting in the round. But you can lay it up against another
Right.
sweater and see how that's going to work. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you're measuring, like how tall to make this piece of the shoulder, remember that
Mhm.
once we get all finished, we're going to add that border all the way around the armhole that will take up about a half an inch under your arm. So, for instance, if I measure across from my armhole up to my shoulder, and let's just say that's 10 inches, I
Mhm.
want to knit
Mhm.
10 and a half inches because otherwise, when I add that ribbing, it's going to raise that armhole up and maybe tighter than I want it to be. So you have to allow that border at the
That makes
bottom
sense.
is going to go around. So this much of our garter edge is going to go around that armhole, and we don't want to take up the space that you were
Mhm.
allowing for your armhole. So we need to allow for that. So I would want to knit my shoulder section 10 and a half inches, not just 10, to allow for that border.
Oh, okay.
Um, and the other thing I wanted to show you is, and I'm going to try to demonstrate for you, you do have to make a decision about whether you want to bring your shoulder straight across or if you want to slant it. I think everybody in the
Mhm.
afternoon class, the in-person class, decided to make it straight across. You know, it's a vest, it's not gonna protrude straight out. It's still gonna follow the shape of your body.
Okay.
Um, and it's not a real close-fitting garment because you're gonna be wearing something underneath it. But in either case, there are instructions. There's a PDF that links you to, I think, Janine Bages, who she's written a lot of books and designed a lot of color work, sweaters and vests, if you're interested in learning how to do that. And it's a variation of short rows that create that sort of wedge
Oh,
in the shoulder. But in either
I
case,
think I'll just, yeah.
go straight across. I
Yeah.
think that I think that
Yeah.
was that would definitely be the easiest, and
Hmm.
and I think it would be just fine. But in either case, you're going to join the shoulder seams with a 3 needle bind off. And we'll need to do that before we cut our steeks. So what I thought I would show you tonight is a little bit about that 3 needle bind off. And I'm going to try to highlight my hands for everybody. Okay, so normally if you want, you can do it two different ways. If you put your wrong sides together when because you're going to have these stitches sitting on waist yarn on both sides of the shoulder. And so the first thing you need to do is to get those stitches back onto needles. And I think in most cases, it's about 17 stitches on the front and the back of the shoulder seam. If we put the wrong sides together, that 3 needle bind off, which is a really pretty bind off. Oh, let me turn my lights on.
Hmm.
Oh, I think that may be the best I can do. If you put your wrong sides together, it's just like sewing. If you do the 3 needle bind off, that seam will show on the outside of your vest, on the right side of your garment. if you put the two right sides together, when you create the 3-needle bind off, that seam will be on the inside of your shoulder. Now, in most, I think in this, most, you could do it either way, but I think most people choose to do it the seam on the inside. And if you've done the 3-needle bind off before, you might remember that you have the front or the back of your vest on those stitches on one needle, the front of your vest stitches, shoulder stitches on a second needle. And to do a 3-needle bind off, you have to take a third needle and insert in the stitches on both needles. And then you take a loop, and you knit them together. Well, it's kind of tricky to get them knitted together. Because you have to pull without splitting anything. You're pulling those stitches off. And then just like we bind off, you pass the first stitch over the second stitch, and you keep on going like that. What I'm going to show you is another way to do a 3-needle bind off that I find is much less fiddly. And once you get it set up, much easier, I think. So, let me see. I split my yarn here. So I've got all my stitches, the front shoulder and the back shoulder on their own needles. And what I'm going to do is to transfer those stitches one by one onto another needle. And I start with the stitches on the back needle first. And I'm just going to slip the one stitch from the back needle and one stitch from the front needle. And then I go back to the back needle and I'm just alternating. I hope you can all see what I'm doing here. So first
We can
back.
see, and oh, I love these brilliant hints.
So one from the back needle, one from the front needle. And I repeat this all the way down my little sample seam here. And I should have said, when you start, you need to make sure that you have the same number of stitches on both needles. But we're just going to keep alternating. And just for demonstration purposes, I used 2 different colors so you could see how these are lining up. And I think you can see that they're alternating. Okay, back to the back needle and the front, all the way down. Oops, that one popped off. I got him. Well, maybe, let me see here. Okay, now back to the back needle. Now your stitches obviously will be the same color, so it's harder to double check to make sure that you alternate it all the way down. But I think you can still see, once you get them on the needle, kind of where they're coming from. And the last one. So I have all those stitches lined up on this one needle. And now I'm going to, well, you can either turn your work and start this way, or you can slide them down because you're not attached to any working yarn yet. And I'm going, just for our demonstration, I'm going to knit them together with the blue. But all I have to do to create the 3-needle bind off is to knit 2 stitches together. So this is so much easier than trying to juggle 3 different needles.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, so now remember we're binding off. It's really easy to just kind of get everything set up and just keep knitting 2 together. But remember, this is a bind off. So we're going to knit the first
Right.
2 stitches, and then we're going to pass the first stitch over the second. And now we're going to knit 2 more together. And when you're doing this on your vest, I would suggest that you go up a needle size. So in other words, if you knit your vest on a size 7 needle, that you can have them resting on any size needle, but the one that you're using to knit the stitches together and bind off would be a size 8. And the reason for that is we don't want that shoulder seam to be too tight and pucker on you. And this way it'll lay nice and flat. So I'm just going down my needle, knit 2 together. Oops, and then bind off 1 stitch, knit 2 together, bind off. So like I said, it takes a minute to get them all set up, alternating on 1 needle. But once you do, it's so much easier to bind off, do a 3-needle bind off this way. And I think you can probably see it's a really pretty bind off. And on the inside of the vest, it looks like this.
Great.
Now, you hopefully that if you've done your pattern, that your dots, all of your lice will line up nicely when you bind them off. But they should once you get started. You will remember that you always slip. The first stitch you slip is from the back needle and then from the front, and maintain that pattern all the way down, and then just knit 2 together and bind off. I'm going to show you one other little trick, although this edge around the neck, we're going to pick up stitches and have that band go around the front of the vest and around the neck. And of course on the armholes too. But when I get down to the end of this, Becky is left-handed, and I think that somehow the way she knits is much easier to see in demonstrations than me as a right-handed knitter.
We're following.
Okay. I think I have scissors here. I do. Whoops. Okay, so I'm at my very last bind off. And slip over here. Oh no. Oh yes, I did that. You heard the sound of double point needles. What I was going to show you is when you get to this very last loop, sometimes it's hard to get that to tighten up or it kind of hangs down. It's really very simple, but you're going to just put the end of your yarn through that loop and pull it straight out to the side, not up or not down. But if you pull it straight off, it just tightens up and it doesn't create that big loop at the end. But you can see here's my seam on the inside. And here's what it would look like on the inside of my vest.
Yeah,
So,
great.
so there you go. Okay.
Awesome.
Well, so what other questions do you have that I can share? We're probably not going to speak until, if everybody's ready, next week, we'll demonstrate the actual cutting, and then picking up stitches around for our borders. So I'd like
Great.
you to wait to do that until we can do it together. Becky is, I think that some of you and probably Ellen and Jill know, but Becky's at her granddaughter's volleyball tournament tonight. So we're hoping she does some big, scores big and wins the tournament. I think they won over the weekend, and this team is supposed to be a little tougher match for her. So.
That's awesome. Very fun.
So, Jill, do you have any questions or any tips that you can share with the rest of us? I know you're a little farther ahead.
Um, I really don't. I know I'm not going to cut mine until either you or Becky are in front of me. So
Exactly.
Oh,
I'm not doing.
we had one lady on Thursday afternoon who was ready to cut her arm. Well, we cut everything on hers, and I have a picture on my phone. I don't know if I can if I can share that with you, but it was funny because it was almost like everybody huddled around and we were all standing there like leaning into what she was doing. It was like she was performing surgery, and I guess in some way she was. But yeah, it was really kind of fun, and it really shapes up. It's like it really looks like a vest now. So the
Oh,
next
that's going to be so fun.
Nice.
So the next, at least the
Yeah.
steps will be to finish the shoulder section, and then bind off your shoulders, and then we'll steek after that. And once we
Okay.
cut those steeks, then we'll pick up stitches for the armhole bands and then for the front band that will go up the front all the way around the neck and back down the front again. So we have some tips for you
Great.
on that too. So this has been a short
Great.
class. I knew this was more of like a check-in class and make sure you didn't have any questions,
Mhm.
but you all feeling
Yeah,
pretty good about
very,
it so
very
far?
helpful.
Good. Good.
Yeah, this has been just a terrific class. I mean, I'm sure all of us have knit for a while, but you just pick up things you would never know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I had never heard of steeking, so this is fun.
Well, if you think about it, like Becky said in our first class, if you've ever, does it say? If you've ever thought about doing color work, um, and not doing it, if you knit it flat like a cardigan, if you knit it flat, from one side around, you'd have to be knitting in pattern on the purl side, which would be really difficult, and carrying steeks on the side you're working toward. So this technique allows you to knit everything in the round, so you're only working on the right side of the fabric, and then you cut it when you're finished. So very clever.
Right.
This was a technique, and I can't even imagine, that these Scandinavian women knit these complicated sweaters. And I tried to imagine the lighting they had, by candlelight only, or then maybe by oil lamps. That just amazes me. I've got ot lights and spotlights and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Apparently, we're really spoiled, aren't we?
We are.
So I'm happy to sit and knit with you for a little while.
Linda, that's terrific. I've got 10 inches to 10 and a half, whatever. I haven't done the measurement, but I guess it'll be faster as we're decreasing, right?
Yes, for sure.
Stitches.
Have you found that, Jill? Your rounds go quicker?
Uh-huh.
Ellen's
Yeah.
nodding.
Yes, they do.
Good.
Yes. I have several inches to go, but
You're well ahead of me.
And have you all decided well, you're already to those decreases, so you've already decided like how long your vest would be from the underarms down. I found that to be kind of tricky because I had one of those quilted vests. I think I got at Talbot's several years ago. Well, when I measured it from the underarm down, in the front, it was 12 inches. But then when I put it on, I realized the
oh,
back goes down a little bit more, at least another inch.
oh,
So I decided to make
oh,
mine 13 inches before I started the armhole shaping.
oh,
Are you making yours longer, Lori?
that's a good.
Yeah, I think mine was 15 or even
Okay.
15 and a half. Yeah. I measured it against, I finally got into the winter clothes. So I did have a vest I could compare it to. Didn't need to quite go as long as that one was, like 17 inches.
Oh.
But I held it up in the mirror against my body, and hopefully it's good.
Good. Good. Well, I'm really anxious to see it. Jill, what did you decide on?
I think I did mine 15 or 16.
Did you?
And then for the armhole, I did. It's longer. It's way long.
Well, I'm really short-waisted, so
Yeah, that makes a big difference. And where it hits you on the hip makes a big difference with some of us. It's a little more
Yes.
attractive if you have a little more length.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to report last week Lori was missing yarn and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. So that's been all resolved. She found a
Good.
separate stash,
Good.
so
Yeah,
every yarn turned up.
I thought I was in trouble. It's
That's happened to
tough when
me.
you've got like a 2-month lag from when
Yes.
you bought it and when you get into the project,
So, what I've done, because I have a lot of projects that are in the queue, but I'm not sure when they'll ever come to the top of the queue. So I especially when Karen was going out of business, I bought yarn, and I bought those 2-gallon Ziploc bags, and I put the yarn and the pattern in the bag and zipped it closed so that I don't
Smart.
Well, that's a good idea.
just pick it up and say, what did I buy this yarn for,
Yeah.
And sometimes even when I pick
Exactly.
up the whole package, I'm really surprised. Like, oh yeah, I forgot all about that pattern.
Hmm.
I've always found it enjoyable to have 3 projects going at once, different types of
Mm-hmm.
um, projects. So it just depends. When you get tired of one, you can pick up another one,
Yep.
especially in the winter, not in the summer,
Mhm.
but in the winter.
It's really interesting because I think
Yeah.
when we had the in-person class, we went around and asked that. I'm not sure if we did that with our Zoom class, but I mean, I probably have a half a dozen projects in the go between things that I want to knit for other people and what I'm knitting for classes and what I'm planning to knit for a class. And Becky is
Oh,
so
yeah.
disciplined. Becky
Mhm.
completes one thing before she starts the next. I'm so jealous.
Oh,
Oh,
no, no, no. I
I
like the
think
variety.
I think it's just a different
Me too.
personality. I'm like you, Lori. I like to have some mindless knitting and something that makes me have to concentrate a little more and portable projects, so that I'm going to sit in a doctor's office. I have socks with me that I can knit and just not think about very much. But so I guess we're
Right.
all different that way. The only
Yeah.
thing that I've
Yeah.
said, I saw this little sign that my sister lives close by. And so we have a pack that if something happens to one of us, the other one will get there and clear out the yarn, grab the yarn before anybody else tries to clear out our stuff. The sign said, my biggest fear when I die is that my husband will sell my yarn for what he thinks I paid for it.
oh,
So that's,
That's funny.
yeah. So are you all feeling pretty comfortable about where you are? Ellen, you've been
Yep.
quoting it.
I'm knitting away. I'm gonna get to where I can steep tomorrow.
Wow, that's
Oh,
exciting. Yeah.
perfect.
Yep.
She's
Are you
like that
are you
that
kidding
TV
me,
show where you could only
Ellen?
Yeah.
see the top
Look,
half of her head.
Here.
You're gonna have to sit on a pillow,
hold
Ellen.
it up. I want to see it.
What?
Hold it up.
It's full of
Hold up
pins
your
and everything.
sweater, your vest. You're gonna cut it tomorrow?
That's the goal.
Beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
I want somebody there when I go
Holy
snip, snip.
moly.
Oh, get a picture, share.
I have
Okay.
Oh,
half an inch to go.
You know what's so funny? I was at a doctor's office yesterday and I had my knit project with me. And a woman sat down beside me and she said, "May I see it?" And I showed her. And she said, "Oh, you've done a good job not pulling the stitches with the contrasting yarn, in the pattern at the bottom." She ended up being a person who raised sheep, sheared them,
Ooh.
spun her own yarn, does demonstrations in Blue Hill, which is pretty near us. And it was fascinating. I said, "Well, I'm learning so much. I'd never heard of steeking." And she said, "Well, when you steek, you have a drink afterwards, hard drink, and then you go to bed."
We'll have to remember to
Mm.
do that when we cut together.
yes.
I know
Have a
that the
toast.
right. It's been really fun. I'll try to get some pictures in class of all the different color combinations because we have about 15
Oh,
students in the
there are a
in-person
lot of beautiful
class.
ones.
Yes,
Oh,
they're
Really.
all
neat.
different and really pretty. So I'll
Mm.
try to get some pictures. I'll get pictures of us actually doing the steeking, and then we'll have to toast on the last class.
Yep. Okay.
All
It works.
righty. Okay. Well, if anybody has any questions, like I said, I'm happy to sit and knit with you, but if you want to just say goodnight for tonight, that's fine too.
I'm all done. Good night,
Okay.
ladies.
All right.
Good night.
Right.
Thanks,
Good
Linda.
night. Have a good week.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
I
See you
think I'm
tomorrow,
gonna pop off
Ellen.
of here.
I
Okay.
am too. Yes, see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
I
right,
guess we
bye-bye.
won't hear about the
Ellen,
volleyball.
how,
I guess we won't hear
What?
about the volleyball game until tomorrow, huh?
Probably not.
right. Ellen, how many inches are you doing from your armhole up?
9.5,
Oh, okay.
because that's what the vest
Okay.
is that I'm using as a template, like.
Okay. Okay.
So now remember to allow for that 1/2 inch under the arm.
So should I make it 10?
I would, just because that's
Okay.
going to take
All
up.
right, now I got another inch to go.
That won't take you long.
Okay.
You'll get
that's-
it done.
Yeah.
I can knit all
Oh my
morning.
Okay. Well, have a good
All
evening.
right.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
You
always good
too.
to
See
see
you
all of
tomorrow,
you.
Uh-huh.
Linda.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Bye. Okay, now let's see. I record.